If someone tells you that a knife's not surgical steel, then it's not worth a darn, are they actually onto something? Or is there more to the story? We're going to look at that question and more on today's episode of KniFAQ, number 231 of the series where I answer all your questions, sharp or dull. Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here coming at you from the KnifeCenter. Welcome to the show. Say hi to Thomas behind the camera, of course.
Tackle box.
Tackle box, appropriate actually today. What we do is we take your questions and we try to answer them with in an enlightening and hopefully entertaining way.
Or the next best thing.
Or the next best thing, the best we can manage anyway. Leave your questions down below in the comments section if you have them, because that's where we pull our questions from. First one today is from Shenandoah Rhodes. Hello everyone at KnifeCenter. Quick question. Why isn't surgical grade steel used for EDC, hunting, tactical, etc. knives, etc.? I said etc. twice. Thank you kindly. So I have actually covered this once before in this KniFAQ video, but it was a long time ago and it was a very brief answer, and I'm going to expand on it a little bit. I mean, it was 4.5 years ago, over 200 episodes ago, back in episode 28. I didn't even have the green shirt back then. When we talked about it the first time. So, yeah, we can talk about it again. So first off, surgical steel or surgical grade steel is just a category, like carbon steel is a category, or tool steel, or stainless steel. You can have carbon tool steels and stainless tool steels, but hey. So it isn't just one thing, but the short answer is the qualities that make a good surgical grade steel are not necessarily the qualities we're looking for when we're talking about knife steel. Yes, they do make scalpels and bladed implements out of surgical steel, but they also make forceps, for example. Like other surgical implements are also surgical steel. And the prime considerations for a surgical grade steel are nothing like edge holding or toughness that we talk about when we're talking about knife performance, but non-reactiveness is kind of like the prime factor that they're looking for. And I'm talking both about, like rust oxidation of the material, as well as from an allergen perspective. You're rooting around inside somebody and you don't want, the implement you're using to cause a negative reaction from the immune system. So that's the short answer. Longer answer though, to why isn't surgical grade steel used for knives is sometimes it is actually. And no, I'm not necessarily just talking about like the flea market specials that say they could be anything and is just labeled surgical steel. There's certainly a lot of like unscrupulous stuff over the years. I think less so now than maybe there once was, that gave a bad reputation in the knife world for things just called surgical steel.
Kind of like mil-spec.
Kind of like mil-spec, perhaps. But sometimes surgical steels are used in knife making or in the knife industry. Sometimes it's just marketing, like Case calls their True Sharp stainless a surgical steel, True Sharp surgical steel. And it itself is I believe is still a variant of a 420 series steel. And something like 420J2 is considered a surgical grade steel. I have, a few things here actually with 420J2 on it. If we're talking about general EDC, it's kind of like don't take this the wrong way, because I'm going to show you 3 legitimate reasons you would want 420J2, but it's also kind of like just barely a knife in a way, if you're prioritizing edge retention or strength or that sort of thing. But I have 3 examples right here where the qualities of good surgical quote-unquote grade steels line up with a knife application. For instance, replaceable blade cutters like this. Edge retention is not a prime concern. We can just pop a new blade in or out. And these are 420J2 scalpel blade holders on this Gerber right here. This is the Big Game Vital. It is a fixed blade hunting knife right here for slicing of the animals, so to speak. Could leave it at that. Another one, fillet knives. You want it to be supremely stainless, and non-reactive stainless steels can do that. And especially if it's something like you know, for a certain segment of the population, like knife fanatics, like most of you watching this probably, are gonna more often than not take real good care of our tools. But for someone who is, you know, out fishing and just, you know, uses their fillet knife, throws it back in the tackle box in, you know, uncleaned condition, that happens a lot with quote unquote, you know, non-knife people, so to speak. Something like 420J2 would work there. Dive knives, for example, like this Techna Ocean Edge fixed blade knife here, 420J2. It's not gonna rust. Like, that's the biggest thing you want on something like this. So sometimes surgical steels are used. Others, simple 440 or 440A even, can kind of fall into the surgical umbrella a little bit. You see that a little bit. You know, this, for example, this, what is it called? It's the Lion Steel UL, the Lion Beat heart-shaped keychain folder. It's really cool. It's a bit of a novelty item, so, you know, it doesn't necessarily need like good, quote unquote, knife steel. It's a cool little thing. And here's a peek behind the curtain of the way, you know, retail stuff works. This Walther P99, when I pulled it off the shelf, it was because our website listed it as simply 440. No A, B, or C or anything like that. Come to find out that it is now listed as 440C on the blade, and these pictures don't match the pictures we have on our website, at least at the time we're filming this. I'm gonna have that updated before the video goes live. Sometimes manufacturers change things on it, on a knife, and don't tell us. Don't tell us. They don't make any announcement. It's just a rolling change and it gets shipped out, and we're none the wiser unless we happen to pull a knife out for a video or inspection or something like that. So that happens sometimes. Give us a break, y'all. Other steels that fall under the surgical steel umbrella are stuff like, where is it? I had it, 304 and 316 stainless. Not really knife steel, like at all. I say that, but some of those, 316 in particular, I think, is sometimes used in some Damascus billets. It's kind of the contrast layers. It's not the part of the Damascus steel that's actually gonna be doing the performing, so to speak. But yeah, like, not a knife steel. But yeah, dive knives kind of makes sense. Replaceable scalpel blade things like this makes a certain amount of sense for sure. Although you do have the Hogue versions. Hogue makes some replaceable blade cutters like the Expel. They're using 440C scalpel blades. That's pretty interesting. But yeah, surgical steel is sometimes used in knives, and in specific scenarios might actually be the best choice. In every other scenario, probably one of the worst choices. All right, cool. Let's move on. We're gonna go now to our measured once, cut twice segment. And this is me just kind of revisiting the pocket pry bar discussion we had a couple weekends ago. The sentiment offered initially in that video was, if you need a real pry bar, a pocket pry bar is not going to do it. And the more I thought about it after filming that video is, maybe it's a problem with the name of a quote unquote pocket pry bar. Yes, it sounds cool. It's kind of catchy, it's marketable, but you're right. If you need to reach for an actual pry bar, this is not necessarily gonna be what you want. This is a Giant Mouse thing, by the way, the cap lifter pry bar. Oh, actually, I didn't realize it was a cap lifter, I forgot. It's got the section right there for opening bottles. That's pretty neat integration of that. Here's the thing. I find a, you know, EDC prying implement very useful. And for me, it's usually, you know, this implement on a Swiss Army knife or whatever Swiss Army knife or Leatherman I'm carrying on a given day. The flathead screwdriver thing is very useful. And the things that I use it for, I never would think of reaching for a pry bar, like an actual pry bar for it. Just to, you know, keep track, I was like, let me see what I use mine for over the course of 2 weeks. And it's things I couldn't do with just my fingers, and a pry bar certainly would have been the wrong tool. I was changing batteries in an electronic, and I couldn't get the battery cover open, and I was able to use this to pop it loose from the housing. Similarly, I pulled a cast iron pot out of the back of my, doesn't matter where. I picked up a cast iron pot. And
comment below where you think he kept his cast iron pot.
I forgot the word for the pantry. That's the word. And the lid was just kind of stuck on there. I hadn't used this particular pot in a while, and it wasn't rusted shut, but it was just like not coming loose, and getting in there and just cracking the seal let me open it real easy. I've used it to unlock several interior doors, or unlock the same interior doors several times. The doorknobs that they lock from the inside, but it's got the slot on the outer door that with a coin or a screwdriver or your EDC pry implement, you can unlock it. My oldest kid is just locking doors right now, and because I had my thing on it, I needed to get into the room, and I just have my thing and pop. I'm in instead of having to go find a coin or find this or that. I don't know why all the locked doors. Staples. I removed a staple that was holding some packaging shut with these. Pull those up and pull it out. That's not fun to do with just fingers. And the last one, this would have been easy to do with something else, but I have a deck on my riding lawnmower. I've got a deck leveling gauge that was kind of just stuck, and it needed prying loose. I could have found a screwdriver pretty close by, but all of those are things that a pry bar would have been the wrong tool for the job. A pocket pry bar, while not a pry bar replacement, worked for me. Yeah, I think they're very useful. Maybe for the folks that get annoyed at them, maybe it's just the name that is throwing things off. Maybe it's a matter of perception.
One-piece multi-tool.
One-piece multi-tool. There you go. And this is a multi-tool because it has a bottle opener. It fulfills the criteria. You can't be a multi-tool if you don't have a bottle opener, right?
Correct.
Anyway, just wanted to expound upon that a little bit. And now we're on to our next segment. This is, of course, Damyr's Buried Treasure. We're on the letter W, thanks to his original question.
Yarr.
However many weeks ago it was. We've been going through the alphabet, second and final time now, showing something that's never been shown on the channel. We are on W, and this one, I'm a little embarrassed to say, is a relatively new knife. We just got these White River Apex knives a couple months ago, and for some reason, they slipped my attention and didn't make it onto the new knives of the week video. So I'm using this opportunity to bring them to y'all's attention. This is a collaboration with Smith & Sons Knives out of Louisiana. White River, of course, is located in Michigan, so it's a cool collaboration there. Good folks at both companies. $225 for, all of these. There's a rich light, a burlap, and I really like this natural micarta with black liners option. The cool thing about this, well, you may or may not think it's cool depending on what you like. This color right here is pretty fresh natural micarta. With time, and especially with UV exposure, this will wind up darkening and get a little browner. But it's always cool to see this almost like honey-like coloration when it is like freshly sanded, freshly ground. Sub 3-inch blade, MagnaCut steel with a harpoon tip. Excellent place there to ride your thumb. Plenty of handle length right here. I mean, that is easily a full 4-finger grip for me on that smaller blade. Tip on it comes down very naturally. That makes it very easy to use that in detailed oriented places like that. Another cool thing this does, especially with this aggressive of an angle, if you're using it to say carve wood or something like that, as you're pushing down through a cut, it kind of follows the angle that kind of allows you to follow the belly of the blade as you're pushing through a slice, keeping the geometry kind of where you want it to be for that type of cut. I think that's pretty cool. Kydex sheath right here. If you want to throw a tech lock on it, you certainly could. It does come with a belt loop right here that can be rotated for different carry options, either horizontal or vertical. And it's just overall a very, very finely made product. I've long said that White River is criminally underrated because of the quality they provide, and yet they aren't talked about as much as the bigger companies. You can never go wrong, I think, with the quality of their items. That's it. Lightning round, PAF 1474. G'day, DCA and Thomas. As an archer, I'm looking for a small fixed blade knife to cut serving string from bowstrings without hopefully nicking the bowstring. Expensive mistake. I know box cutter blades can be used, but I'd like something a bit nicer and less boring. Any suggestions for a small thin blade that possibly doesn't have a pointy end? Maybe sheep's foot. Many thanks from Brisbane, Australia, Paul. And then he's got a little kangaroo, so he's a Paul Kanga, I guess. here's where my Google didn't really help me too much. You say serving string, and I'm not sure exactly what that is. Archers in the comments, if you can kind of explain quite what I'm missing.
Australian archers.
Let me know. Australian, it may be different down there, actually. Down in there. Sorry, Paul. So my initial thought was not an actual blade, because, if you're worried about accidental, cuts, even, a sheep's foot isn't quite gonna prevent that, I don't think. My thought was scissors, quite honestly. And a Swiss Army knife, whether you go with the companion, this is the companion slim, one of the new non-knife bladed models, but the companion X is just the single layer with scissors, and that's like what, about $32 for that. It's $45 for the companion slim right here, which is the thickest. It's the thickest of the bladeless multi-tools, all called companion. Don't get me started. But even just the like the classic SD, the small keychain one might be good. But I like the bigger scissors on these, certainly. So that's my preliminary lightning round answer here. Pair of scissors on a Swiss Army knife or some such, unless the comment section can tell me something that I'm missing here. Next question from Iaklu. Can you recommend a folder with a full 4-finger grip and a shorter, quote, legal everywhere blade length, where blade to handle ratio is less of a concern, bonus points for compression lock? Well, you kind of spelled it out right there. The Para 3 is the way to go, in my opinion, there, especially if you want that compression lock. And legal everywhere is, there's no quote unquote actual such thing, and we are not lawyers, and this is not lawyerly or legal advice. But I tend to usually think of like a 3-inch blade as something you can take pretty much everywhere, so you're following what you need to follow. 3-inch blade, tons of different steels to choose from, and thanks to the guarded finger choil there, tons of handle real estate on this blade. So if you're restricted to a 3-inch knife specifically, you've got something that still feels full size and it can cut full size. And if you're talking about, maintaining a low profile everywhere, either the blue handle with the Spy 27 or the gray handle with Maximet blade, I think both pretty good options for maintaining a low profile, within reason, of course. Now on to our finalist question of the day, which is, of course, our most seriousest question of the day. And this might be the question that gets us canceled. We're going to find out. Which comes from DTZ Char. Why do American-made Spyderco knives have imprinted on them Golden, Colorado, USA, Earth? This would imply that there are non-Earth-made Spydercos. What type of materials or steel would these otherworldly knives be made out of? I won't deny that aliens don't exist. Does Spyderco know something we don't? It doesn't actually imply that there are Spyderco knives being made off-planet. And this is the thing. I'm going to open an industry secret to you guys.
We went down a rabbit hole.
This is something that few people know about, and I think it's high time that, the truth was told, right? The reason it says Golden, Colorado, USA, Earth is because the designers of these knives, the Glessers, are actually trying a little bit too hard to pass as humans. They are the extraterrestrials, in fact. So they're like, we got to put the address on there and write Earth so they know we're, they don't think we're from somewhere else, right? Maybe a misguided choice on their part, I would say, but the Glessers are extraterrestrials, man. That's what it is. I mean, how else do you explain the aesthetics of a typical Spyderco knife, right? It's like someone described what a knife was to them and they didn't see any examples and tried to create it. How else do you describe that typical Spyderco look? Furthermore, we've got 2 exotic steels on both of these Para 3s right here. The Spy 27 is their own proprietary formula. Maximet, really cutting edge stuff. Why do you think they're always experimenting with all these, frontline, pushing the boundaries of metallurgy steels? It's because they're trying to get back home and they need the right alloy to repair their spacecraft. And there's nothing we've been able to provide that is going to do and perform the way they need. And so that's why they're pushing these forward. The knife company is just a front. It's just a front, and it's not a front to our sensibilities, quite frankly. But part of me wonders if maybe they've been secretly guiding the steel industry all this time, and that's why we've seen such high performance stuff. It didn't just come out of nowhere, right? It had to be from them.
Like the zipper.
Sure, why not? The zipper was around before the Glessers were here.
Oh, but similar origin.
Could be. So, now you know, and hopefully, save this video while it's still up. We might get taken down from all this. I don't know if I should be telling you all this stuff, so. This is the end of the line, maybe?
Yeah.
That's all for now. It might be all forever, but check out the links in the description if you want to get your hands on any of these knives. And if you have your own questions, leave them down below and we'll answer them while we still can.
Check out our next channel, Space Center.
That's all for now. Don't forget about our long-running Knife Rewards program while you're over there at the KnifeCenter. And until next time, hopefully there will be a next time. I'm David. That's Thomas.
They already scrambled his brain.
What?